I just want to reflect, though, although Tom may have 664,000 followers right now, apparently MySpace had 115 million users at one point. So if his internal KPIs are amount of friends he has on a social media platform, he's not doing as well.
No, he's really dropped off the radar big time.
Hello and welcome to the Big Con podcast, where we use the benefit of hindsight, a healthy dose of schadenfreude, to look at where businesses took a misstep that impacts either their profit, their brand, or something much more dire. My name is Dale Lazinski, big business nerd.
And I'm Emily, Harvard degree candidate.
Strategy is not just for the big players, so no matter what size business you work on, tune in as we learn through the failures of the poor souls that have gone before us today. Welcome, listeners. Welcome, Emily, to our official last episode of season 2, which I can't believe we made it. It was touch and go there in the middle there. There's lots of things happening in our lives, but we're keen to keep the momentum going. And it brings you today lessons learned. The episode where we get to boast about how much wiser that we are now, recant anything that we've changed our minds on as we've gone through and listened back perhaps, or maybe fix any mistakes that we've made in the research of these episodes. Plus, I think this season, we brought you a lot of really fresh stories of things that are really kind of still developing, still happening. So there's plenty of updates to give our listeners on things that are still occurring based on updates in the media. So welcome to Lessons Learned.
I'm excited.
Any initial thoughts on the season, on the last 3 months in?
No, the first thing maybe to say is that I don't think we're going to recant anything this time around.
We're experts.
Yeah, we're experts now.
We fix strategy.
But listeners, if you think that we should be recanting on something, please let us know, because I'm happy to explore that and receive feedback.
I'm going to commend myself. I think I've gotten off the fence a little bit as we've kind of gone on and started to have a position on some things. Usually I tiptoe and go, yeah, I can see both sides of the argument. But I've decided to start backing a position. I got quite heated around influencer marketing and wage theft, apparently. I didn't know I was so passionate about those topics, but listening back and looking back, apparently I am. Now, I am almost a passenger along for this ride, a willing passenger, as you kind of take me along. You bring the education expertise, et cetera, et cetera. I bring the expertise that comes from countless hours of Googling. And
I was going to say consuming content.
It's an obsession and not a good one. But I've come to a hypothesis that I might have to clear up in season 3 of Lessons Learned. Don't know how we have to recant on this, but I'm feeling like all strategy stuff-ups, all things that you can do wrong in strategy actually stem from a few short areas. So areas, it's a finite list of things that you can do wrong. So I'm going to go through my list, and you can tell me if I missed any or if there's anything wrong with my hypothesis. So the first thing, it's growing too fast. So we've seen that. We saw that with the Essential phone. Kind of grew too fast. Lego, they grew too fast. We look back. There's growing too slow. So you kind of got to walk tightrope there around whether you're growing too fast or grow too slow, but you're losing that competition. You're staying stagnant. You're boring. Not investing in your business where you should. So things like the really exciting topic of compliance. So there's plenty of other areas in which you should be investing in properly. And if you don't invest in a certain area, it grows at a different rate.
I think that's also time investment and working out which projects to give your time to, what your staff should be prioritizing, all that kind of stuff for sure.
Not finding product market fit. So the whole having a product that no one really wants, which seems to be quite common. And product fit is something that people work at for a long time before they can get there. Lack of clear vision. So they're like, we're going to do this. And there's no real understanding of what they're doing. Misalignment, and I think we've seen that a few times. So that Weight Watchers this season, where we're going to do one thing on one side, but we haven't told the rest of the team what we're doing. So HR is not hiring people who they should be hiring, and the strategy office is doing this is over here, and maybe someone's doing this over here. Employee engagement, I think, is quite an interesting one, and it continues to be something that has never been more and more both problematic, but something that people need to focus on. It used to be that no, we're a business, but it's so much about the people in the business now
and culture.
And one that's ever growing, customers not agreeing with the company. So one we might do in season 3 is around the Budweiser issues that are happening at the moment. Same with Nike in terms of them backing a certain point of view, and their customers all of a sudden throw their arms up in the air and go, I can't believe they're doing this. I don't know how I stand on that. I feel like businesses should, I get the businesses are so much part of our life, but I feel like as well that maybe they don't need to participate in the conversation as much as they do.
I think this is why this is ever growing. I understand what you're saying in terms of businesses maybe should stay out of it a little bit. However, I think consumer demand is becoming more and more like they want to know what their companies are supporting, and it's becoming harder and harder to stay out of political decision making, because if you're supporting a sweatshop in Bangladesh because that's how you run your business, that's not necessarily them trying to make a political statement. It's them trying to save money. And people are more and more looking for companies that are aligned with the way that they see the world. And so there's a lot of ways that you can sort of have an opinion without even, just because of the way that your operations function. And by the celebrity endorsements that you might, and the people you might work with, or are you following environmental standards? Are you...
Yeah, ESG's become massive lately.
Yeah. So, and a lot of people are making decisions about what they're purchasing for their homes or their families based around health, more new health information, new environmental information. There are a lot of political things and a lot of social choices that they might make that the customer is becoming more and more aware of, and they're demanding more and more from even where they buy their towels. You know what I mean?
I'll give Alan Joyce and Qantas credit for how they approached the right to gay marriage vote. Mm-hmm. The line from Alan Joyce is around it was representative of their company culture, and Alan Joyce took a very openly affirmative stance in that. Much as I can say that they shouldn't be involved, big companies are very much part of our life, more so than government.
And the more that people demand a certain level of something from their products that they're purchasing, the more companies are going to have to get involved. But it sort of ties into the lack of clear vision as well, and what you stand for as a company will make evident to people what your social values are, I think.
And the final thing I'll say on that is around, like, there's some things that we probably want them to have a say on, in terms of I don't want my toilet paper to have a say in my politics, but I do want to know where they're ethically sourcing, how they get that toilet paper. So I think there's what
their
certain amount of
footprint is.
Correct. Yeah. Like, how much of a say will it actually have, and what's the input there? So I think that's where, and again, you're right, it goes back to like clear vision. Circling back though, I've clocked strategy, like I've won strategy. I haven't, there's nothing else like I've done.
No, I don't think so. I would fundamentally disagree, because there are so many new things that are popping up all the time. And like, sure, like there are certain like strategy mistakes that maybe we are zoning in on because that's something that we've seen before and we're like, oh, that's it. I don't think that you can ever have a finite amount of mistakes.
It's like a negative Occam's razor. We're just like, it must be this. It's surely just they haven't found product market fit.
Yes. Okay. So, but then also there is an infinite number of combinations of ways that you could do all of these wrong. So like you can bugger up all of them together, or you can bugger up just a tiny little element that you would have thought would have made no difference, like Weight Watchers with their hashtag WW. And that all comes crashing down because of World War III. You know what I mean? Or the idea that we may have a World War III. There's not going to be a finite number of ways that you could do things wrong. But it will be interesting if we could give ourselves a challenge next season to see if we can find some of those new things or those new combinations. And if we can't, maybe you're right.
Two final points I'll make is, obviously we're back for season 3 because there's apparently plenty of opportunities for people to continue making mistakes, and we'll be there to watch you fall over. And secondly, you kind of need to have guns firing on all of those points of strategy.
Yeah.
Like, it needs to be getting them right at all times, because at any one time, if you're growing too fast, you're growing too slow, if you're not investing, if you don't have clear vision, if you don't have all those elements firing, there's probably some room where something's going to fall over. And
well, exactly. And that's why they say to make such a really solid business plan, because then if you have one of those elements fall over, everything else is so strong, you can really easily address the thing that is wrong.
Now, you mentioned Weight Watchers. So listeners, we're going to do a quick update on our season 2 stories. How are they going? How's Weight Watchers going? Because I was real concerned about them.
Yeah, look, it's quite interesting actually. So Weight Watchers shares are currently being recommended by many analysts as a strong buy. So, yeah, which is really fascinating. I found really fascinating. They're currently at $6, which is up from $4, which is where we sort of left the timeline in our latest episode. And the market predicts an average of $9 by May next year, with some predicting as high as $13. which, isn't their glory days of 130
Still, if you're
or whatever it is.
doubling your investment, I can see why they're recommended a strong buy.
Yeah. And this is because they have acquired a company called Sequence. Now, Sequence is a telehealth company that directly connects patients to doctors who can prescribe weight loss drugs to them.
Ozempic for all.
So the belief is that the old Weight Watchers model will be able to support patients who are coming off the drugs but want to keep the weight off. So it's kind of like their own sales lead solution kind of thing, I guess. Do you have any immediate thoughts on this?
Good on them. Trying to find relevance when you've lost it, I think, is something that it's something they should probably try. And obviously the market seems to like it. So who's their main customer at the moment?
Anyway.
The analysts seem to like it, and I have a rant about them that I'll reserve for another episode. But I can see it fit. It's just another vertical for them, I guess.
Yeah. And I mean, I can't explain why I feel like this, but it doesn't feel fully moral to me. Like, these people are truly very vulnerable people who are seeking...
If we're talking about their clear vision, though, isn't that where they've been?
Well, I don't know, because I don't think I still don't think it feels aligned. Like, if you're even just going to look at, the rebrand, it still doesn't feel aligned with that. The rebrand is the holistic wellness. And I don't really think that I've ever seen anything about holistic wellness that includes a drug for weight loss.
But maybe let's take a different lens on it. Maybe they've just slapped a pretty label on what isn't going to ever be holistic wellness. Like, I feel like maybe there's a conscious decision to uncouple and put out there in the world and positively influence and show, we're going to be focused on holistic wellness. But really what we're focusing on is, like, their immediate goal is to lose weight.
But this is what we focused on in the episode that was fundamentally wrong, because what they were projecting was misaligned with what they were doing functionally. And people aren't stupid. People figure that out. And if you're Volkswagen and you're projecting environmentally friendly things, but really are doing some dodgy diesel fume things, and if you're Weight Watchers and you're saying, we want to do holistic wellness, but also operationally, we actually don't really care about your wellness as a whole, people start to see that so there's your misalignment of branding and operation. And I see that as a fundamental problem. I see what you're saying in terms of they just can do what they want to do, but then they should be projecting, like, we've got a quick weight loss pill solution, and then we'll help you stay off the weight. And that should be their brand, because there is a market for that. How I feel morally about that is beside the point. There is a market for that, but then that's not what they're projecting in terms of their new brand. And so maybe it will go up in the short term, and maybe there will be some new sales leads generation from that. But it'll be interesting to continue to watch their journey as they sort of struggle through this new holistic wellness, weight loss, social views, and whether people stick on board with, what they're projecting.
I'm fascinated about the psychological optics around, like, is this something in which people who are not using the product see Weight Watchers as, you're on Weight Watchers, that's so good, you're looking after yourself, you're looking blah, 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 but really it's a cheat. So I'm interested, and sorry, not a cheat, that's unfair. But I'm interested around the long term. As I said, the analysts like it, and a doubling of a stock price isn't too bad. Weight loss drugs are very popular at the moment. Everyone's making them quite famous. I think maybe that's what the analysts are saying, not just the fact that they've added on this new vertical in their company. On the topic of slimming down, PwC have had to swing their axe on their company numbers. You remember we covered their PwC tax fraud scandal this season, in which one individual got some inside word around what they were, designed the inside word around how they were going to get multinationals to pay more tax in Australia, the appropriate amount of tax in Australia. And he worked with them to make sure that they couldn't and it could avoid that. It's gross. It is so yuck. The more and more people you tell about it, it is a horrendous thing that should never have happened. So the impacts have continued to go. It's playing out in the media. On the PwC side, as I mentioned, they've done some staff cuts. So apparently a decent amount of partners and staff have been cut. It's undetermined whether that's due to this, but correlation, maybe not causation. They brought in Kevin Burrows, so they've had to bring in a big gun from PwC main office from Singapore. He's been heading up the global sales for a while, but he's come on board to really steady the ship in Australia. PwC is aiming to sell the federal and state contracts. They're selling it to Allegro for a cost of $1. But I think it's more just a show of faith.
Yeah.
It's going to push about 130 partners and 1,750 staff, so 1,750 staff to a new company. And the intention is for PwC to kind of distance itself from that government work for a while, and also not allow for any disruption to the work and the contracts. The government is still out for blood, and most recently, the case has been pushed over to the federal corruption watchdog. I don't think it's going away, and I really think that PwC, once this is finished, whatever that finish looks like, they're just not going to look the same.
So this sale, Dale, for $1, does this mean that this section that does the government work is literally completely separate from PwC now and functions as its own entity? PwC doesn't get any income from them anymore. Good.
I feel like it's temporary.
You reckon?
I feel like it's like, we'll just push it over there for a little bit, and then once we've cleaned up our house, we can bring it back. And it's going to take a while, and I don't, it's a free market. They should be allowed to do that. It's sin bin for me. It's just, it's a timeout. But also, I think the government's probably learned a lot around some of this, and globally, people are learning quite a lot around this, around how they work with consultants. And talent in government is such a hard thing. Governments need to really look at quite closely in retaining talent and being attractive to talent, so that they can attract mission-led people who are going to do a good thing to support that. So it's a very different work. A lot of people move to private jobs because they pay more and they're going to get more money and they're more valued and they're going to have more of an impact. And so how can government, state, federal, local, whatever that might be a place that young people want to work and bring their talent and their insights, so that they don't have to rely on that consulting space too much. Something interesting to watch. As
an immediate solution, great. Let's keep it separate, because that conflict of interest was absolutely overwhelming.
Probably a few steps towards their redemption, but we'll see. Speaking of redemption, one I've been hanging out for since you teased it.
Yeah.
George Calombaris. How's it going?
He is on that pathway to redemption, I believe. Yes. So he's been out of the spotlight for a while now. He's regrouped, and he's actually opened up a new restaurant called Hellenic House Project. And it seems like George has really made a solid promise to get back to his roots. So the restaurant is located in Hyatt in Melbourne, which is sort of out in your burbs. And it is about family and Greek heritage. That is sort of their ethos. And there are sort of photos of his family everywhere, and many of his living relatives work in there with him. And they've really gone back to the crux of what George does really well, which is
not appearing on The Masked Singer.
No, it is making delicious Greek food. I listened to an episode of the podcast called Dirty Linen, and they talk about new restaurant openings. And I heard George himself talk a lot about his commitment to representing himself and his culture really proudly, and going back to remembering what it's all about, which for him is delicious food and spending time with family. And all of the PR sort of surrounds this in terms of like what they're doing to promote this new restaurant. But Dale, we have seen workplaces being called a family before, and generally it can be quite a massive red flag, because it's sort of a way to get free labor, because you should be dedicating your life to your family, and so you give a bit more. You're not going to charge mum and pop. No, you just give a bit more, and you like are really invested, or you do anything for your family, and then suddenly you burn out. My partner says this all the time. Workplaces are workplaces, not families. But I mean, this is George, literal family. So like, what do you think? Do we think George is up to his old tricks with a new spin, or do we think we could just turn this around? And look, I'll be honest, like in this podcast, he did sound really genuinely excited to be doing this and to be sharing it with loved ones. So sometimes family and business, like, what are your thoughts?
Two thoughts. Firstly, use what's around you to get your leg up. He's had his time out in the shade, but I think Victoria Beale from season 1 summed it up perfectly, in that I have my own family, thanks, and that comes with its own trauma. I don't need any more. I would like to think that he's learned his lesson, and he's got the lovely fine and everything else, the collapse of his maid establishment, to really show what he needs to do right. So I think he will do the right thing. I think there's actually more structures in there to do the right thing. We can see that the amount of people who are being caught by this. So 100% to do the main thing. But I think lesson for all business owners, people in leadership roles, etc. As soon as you say we're like a family here, be aware of what the connotations that might bring. It's become very. I don't think he's up to his old tricks. I think this is generally and
he's
there's a bit of PR here.
Yes, for sure.
There's a bit of PR spin here, but that's also who he is. Like he does it quite well. So
which is what we said in the episode that he needed to stick to, which is what he's good at. Also, there are new laws coming in terms of the minimum wage for international workers, which is going to impact hospitality in a big way. So we will see.
There's also changes to Australian super laws as well, in which you need to pay it the same time you pay your paycheck. And that used to be a lot of the problem, which people will go check their super account and see it hasn't been paid for 6+ months. So that's the structures that are being put in place to be able to support businesses to not make those mistakes. And again, I think that was my pedestal I stepped down from last time, which is around it's hard to do wage correctly in Australia because the laws change and they're quite difficult.
Look,
get an accountant.
But I'm sure he had plenty, but it was
get better accountants then.
Yeah, get better accountants. I mean, compliance is extremely important. But do you have an update?
Incorrect, according to CEO or ex-CEO of Wirecard, because he was recently caught saying that it's crap. Compliance is crap.
No way.
Marcus Braun is currently fighting as much as he can to stay out of jail. Heads have rolled for this. So Singapore, that was where a lot of the dominoes started to fall down around the Wirecard. But a Singapore court has handed down 2 former employees of Wirecard prison terms for their role in misappropriation of funds that led to everything. So it's happening. What I'm trying to say, it's the people already locked up. I do not have any updates on Jan Masalek, who was apparently the mastermind, and he was the one with the ties to the Russian.
So he wasn't one of he wasn't one of the employees that got prison terms.
They can't find him. He's disappeared. He is a man of mystery, but that was his whole thing. So again, I highly recommend you watch the Netflix doco Scandal, spelled Skandal. Gives them very interesting view into that space. But listeners, I promise if we hear anything about Jan Masalek, we'll bring it to you as soon as we can.
Last time we did a lessons episode, we had the con of the season, which went to Meg Whitman because she appeared twice in 2 of our episodes.
The criteria for being a con of the season is present. I need to promise listeners that it does exist.
The con of the season, I think, is just something that tickles us a bit. We think it's a bit funny. I reckon, Dale, this season, it's got to be Tom from MySpace. And here's why. He convinced literally everyone to be his friend for a very long time before people got tired of him.
Convinced is something I want to...
I know. It's more like...
It's baked into the code.
Yeah. And then he sold the business for $580 million before it, went tits up. He now lives in Hawaii as a travel photographer, so he's essentially retired on it. He has an Instagram called MySpace Tom, where he posts his photos and has 664,000 followers, which is nothing like his heyday. But it's also, it's nothing to balk at. I don't have 664,000 followers, so... people in glass houses. And his bio, which I do love, says, former first friend, which I think is funny.
I do like that.
But Tom. Get it, Tom. Well done.
Your trophy will be in the mail. Congratulations on being our second con of the season. Much appreciated. I just want to reflect, though, although Tom may have 664,000 followers right now, apparently MySpace had 115 million users at one point. So if his internal KPIs are amount of friends he has on a social media platform, he's not doing as well.
No, he's really dropped off the radar big time.
So we really hope that this trophy you receive in the mail, Tom, is enough of a consolation prize to help him out.
Well, I became a follower of his in researching this episode, so he's got 664,001. So, listeners, go chuck him a like.
100%. Well, listeners, that brings us to the end of season 2 and the end of this episode. Thank you for listening, and we hope you open up your Instagram app right now and follow
MySpace Tom.
Instagram account, MySpace Tom. If you want to learn more for your business, please head over to our website, thebigconsultingagency.com, and sign up to the mailing list to hear news about workshops and stay up to date with new episodes. You can find me on Dale Bryce L on all platforms. Please don't forget to follow us and rate us on your podcast app of choice, on TikTok, on YouTube. We're on all the platforms. We are out there. You can see our faces, listen to our voices, however you might be wanting to enjoy us. Emily, all the best for your next little adventure. We'll see our listeners very soon.
Yeah. And you too.
Exciting things happening.
I know.
It'll be great.
And then we'll be back, listeners, at another time. We'll let you know. Stay tuned to our socials for updates on when we're coming back.
You'll know when we know. All the best.